Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome back to another little Satisfactory video. We're back in our little factory. And I did post a little quick video about basically which video you would like to have next. And we didn't get a good clear answer from that. Please. So we are going to, it was one of those story videos, so I guess you only see the oldest story video. And then the new current story video isn't shown until it's too late or something. But in any case, this time we are going to set up how to make heavy modular frames. Something we need for future project. And I bought myself a little factory cart because I thought that would be really handy. And then I remembered that I'm using what they call inverted mouse or inverted y-axis, and that doesn't translate to vehicles. Come on, Satisfactory, fix this. It's excruciating to drive vehicles. Ugh. Anyways, a factory cart is great if you want to transport yourself on flat surfaces, but as soon as you come to something not flat, oh my god, ugh, that's so hard. You don't believe how hard that is. It looked easy. And that's because I've driven a couple of times. So basically, we are going to do cool stuff like that. We just have one tiny issue, and that is that we have started to use the power of the biomass burners. What I'm going to do before we continue with the video is making this. God damn it, I missed kind of all of them. Kind of this, but again. So I'll just show it. I'll just show it to you when it's finished, because it's not that isn't interesting, is it? But one of the issues that we actually have because of this is actually that this production is full, which has made it so our existing power plant doesn't get all the energy. So that's something that can happen, because our power plant that's ugly and temporary and hidden behind here, it's actually running from that the plastic production is actually going. So what we can do is we can do a little ugly hijack thing. God damn it, that's the wrong. Come on, mate. I'm going to add some more temporary TM connections. Oh god, that looks awesome. Not awesome. What's the opposite to awesome? That's how it looks anyways. Alright, we're just gonna insert this extra coal here. I'm just going to update this power production a tiny little bit, just some temporary stuff, so that we can continue with the video. Because this new part, this new project, will actually take a lot of power. So what I wanted to say with this was that make sure your power is actually working when starting, before starting to make a new big project. Otherwise you might run out. Absolutely wonderful. So we have some of that there. Oh my god. And let's see if everyone... And remember, this should be temporary. This is a temporary solution, not a permanent solution. Please don't get into the habit of having this as some kind of permanent solution, because that is bad. Let's see here. According to the calculations, we should actually be able to use more petroleum coke than we even produce now, so I guess that's good. And the power issue has been solved, TM. Let's go and make the actual heavy modular frames instead. So basically you probably need a new iron source for this, and you probably need to check on your resources and see how much of the existing production you can actually reuse. My guess is that you will not be able to reuse your modular frames or the versatile, what is it called? They're actually called modular frames. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to use the modular frames you have unless you make a lot of them, because to make heavy modular frames you actually need to produce a lot of modular frames. So let us check the recipe. So, to make one heavy modular frame, which is of course made in the manufacturer, you'll need 10 modular frames per minute, 30 steel pipes per minute, 10 encased industrial beams per minute, and 200 screws. And here is where notes come in handy. Notes. Before we wrote down that we're using 30 per minute. So then we know. That's why we'll write that down. You should always keep track of how much you're using, because otherwise it will be very hard to keep track. In this area, we are receiving 15 encased industrial beams per minute. And so far, we haven't been connecting up the encased industrial beams to anything. So we can just take from this source to fill that need. So basically, we have the steel pipes here. We're going to use all we got, so we are not going to generate any extra, which can be a little bit of a problem. But trusting that everything won't run 100% efficient all the time, we will probably have a couple of steel beams over. Otherwise, we'll fix that later. But basically, we got enough. That's the important part. Now we need 10 encased industrial beams per minute. We got 15, so that's no problem. When we come to the modular frames, however, we are not as lucky. Here we can see we got the modular frames and we're making 0.5 per minute, which is enough to fulfill our usage, our personal usage, but it's not enough to do anything with, really. We are making 120 screws per minute, so that's not really enough, especially not when we need to make the modular frames. So that's something we'll have to fix. We can use some of this source, but we'll need to make a lot more. So we basically need to uncover a new iron source, which I guess you could already imagine. And fortunately, we have a new iron source right down here that we haven't used anything for. Now, if you have a lot of Mark 1 miners, you can also go to your existing miners and just upgrading them and stealing the output. Because as you can see here, we got the Mark 1 miner here, and we can use that extra output to, well, fuel some more stuff. But for this particular project, we're just going to use a new output. Look, I accidentally created the back rooms here. So we shouldn't get lost in here, but I don't think there is a big risk. Anyways, we'll need to slap together a couple of miners, because of course we'll need some Mark 2. And there's our miner. So basically, just to recap here. Here we have the heavy modular frame. We'll need 30 steel pipes per minute, already got that. We'll need 10 encased industrial beams, already got that. And if you're lacking your beams, encased industrial beams, and your steel pipes, please check my earlier steel tutorial. I have a first steel tutorial that's a little bit more popular, and then I have a second steel tutorial which is a lot better. I think it's less popular, but it's a lot better because it shows you how to like output the maximum amount of steel from one little factory. So I recommend you to check that out if you need help to getting up those steel numbers to enough. And I got a dedicated encased industrial beam factory because that's something complex that you probably need a dedicated tutorial to build in a good way. Now for this project I'm going to use 2 basic alternate recipes. Now you don't have to do that, you can do it regularly, it's just I'm going to build my factory on top of the roof, at top here. Basically on this flat surface we already have a factory, and that will mean that, well, I don't want to be broadened out too much. So basically what we need here, if we're going to make 10 modular frames per minute, we need to build modular frames. And that means we'll need 5 machines making modular frames. This means we need 15 reinforced iron plates per minute, and we need 60 iron rods per minute. So if we just go in here, you can see that each of this takes 30 iron plates and gives us 5 reinforced iron plates per minute. So we basically need 3 machines making reinforced iron plates to cover for all our 5 machines And 5 assemblers is pretty big, right? So we only need 3 machines to cover for our 5 assemblers making this, right? There is, however, another little recipe, and there is an alternate bolted iron plate. And this is pretty basic, a lot of people unlock this, and the only difference is that this does the job that 3 machine does. So only one of this machine can do the entire job. And you might wonder, well, that's great. It's also slightly more expensive, so it's slightly less efficient. So here you can see it requires 30 iron plates per minute, but it requires 60 per minute. So if we go here, you can see that 3 times 30 is 90, so that's cool. But what is 60 times 3? Well, that's 180, as you can see right here. And that means we're wasting a lot of screws by actually having this alternate recipe. But we're also saving a lot of space. Now, the other thing we're going to do, we're going to use another, like I don't like to use a lot of exotic alternate recipes for my tutorials, but there is one recipe I have requested to you to unlock so many times. And you'll need to do that, of course, early in game. I guess you already have it, and everyone uses that. And that's cast screws. So that lets us skip a big portion and just make cast screws, which would be absolutely beautiful. And then we can make 50 screws per minute instead of having to make iron rods and then have to make screws from those rods. Now, that method is more efficient, so we're wasting some materials yet again by using this, but cast screws simplifies our life so much. And again, it's entirely possible making exactly this setup, but we'll just a little bit more space and you're there. The components, like the main components for these alternate recipes are basically the same, just in simpler ways. So some of the alternate recipes, like copper rotor, suddenly requires copper, and that's weird, and that's another material. So yeah, we'll skip those alternate recipes for sure. So basically, now we need to do some more calculations. If we go here, we can see that, right, we need 10 modular frames per minute, and we need 200 screws. If we go to the modular frames here, and well, we're using the a little bit more expensive recipe for the alternate bolted plate to make the reinforced iron plates in order to use them to make modular frames. But for this, and we only need 1 of this, otherwise we'll need 3 normal machines making reinforced iron plates. But with this recipe, we'll need 1 machine for the entire facility. And that means 90 iron plates and 250 screws per minute. Right. And if we go here to the modular frame, and remember, we need 5 machines doing this, assuming that none of them are over or underclocked, and 5x12 equals 60, which means we'll need 60 iron rods per minute. Now I wrote this down, and with the screws extra from there, we have an amount of 90 iron plates per minute, 250 screws per minute, and 60 iron rods per minute. And to calculate how much iron we actually need for this, well, we basically need to do some math. So we take 90, divide it by, divide it by 2 and take it times 3. So here we have it. We'll just go 90 divided by, well, 20, because that makes more sense to you maybe. So we got 4.5 times 30, so we have 135. And this is how many ingots we require to make the iron plates. Now, the iron rods, they're much more straightforward. 1 ingot is 1 rod. So you can just take 135 plus 60, which is 195. All right. Then we'll have the 450 screws, and I'm going to use the cast screws. So here we have 12.5, and we'll need to take this value. So we first need to take the cost of production. So 450 divided by 50 equals 9. So it's basically 9 times 12.5, which is 112.5. Cool. And well, 195 plus 112.5 is 307.5. And that's a little bit problematic because, as you might remember, our conveyor belts Mark II have a limit of 270 resources per minute. This means that we are required to outsource some of the production to another source. And we have one close by. This is a Mark I miner, so we're going to use some of this iron in order to, well, make it up for our shortcomings. And as you can see here, pretty handily, if we just remove 60 per minute, which is the iron rods, we go to the number 247.5. So we could just slightly overclock this facility. 247, yeah. And we are up to standard. And we can actually write it in here, by the way. There we go. No, you have to click enter. That's the annoying part. That is the annoying part. There we go. So, if we are going to outsource the rod production, we of course need to insert it into this facility here. Now, this is running, it's producing ish 90... I think it only requires actually 90 parts per minute. But who knows? Maybe it's perfectly set up. We're just going to not mess with that and just add basically what we need on top of this number. And what we need is 60 to be exact. And we're just gonna say plus 60 and 153.6 is our new output we should have. So what we basically do is we take a Mark II miner, slap it on top of here, and I hope it is connected up with power, and it is, and it starts to output. We should of course upgrade the throughput of this conveyor to something that is higher than it was, because I don't think that would have been enough. And what we're going to write in here, well, that's 153.6, 153.6, and there we go. Beautiful. Now we're also more efficient, by the way. We need to increase the output to be exactly 60 more per minute. And this thing is a little bit underclocked, which is great. So we can do like this. We just hold Control and click on the shards to fill it up here. And we can then write in, well, it should be 60 more. So 63 per minute and enter. And then we'll have a 212% overclock. Now, of course, I would advocate for not using a lot of power shards, but all of my power shards is in the temporary cold production, by the way. But sometimes you can as well use them. Otherwise, why should you collect them? So I'm taking this opportunity and using my power shards here. Now we also need to make sure that this belt can output the added load. And of course it can't really now. So we'll of course need to make sure that it goes quickly all the way in here. So we can see this is likely to be a little bit slower belt in here. So we could remove stuff and place it here. We'll probably need to remove this machine and check if it's a Mark I belt inside of there. But instead of that, we can do something else. And it's as simple as this. How about we write in 30 in here? So we subtract 30, like that. Beautiful. Then we go to this machine and we insert 30 inside of here. There we go. Why we did this is that the input speed may be limited by 60, and now it's maximum 60, which makes it a-okay. Very nice. So, of course, the output needs to be Mark III as well, as far as we are going to build, we're going to connect up some more machines. So let's just make it Mark III all the way through here. Just gonna get some steel beams, and yes, then we can build some roads. So, excuse me if there is so much math in this episode, But making heavy modular frames in an efficient way is hard. And I must say, I think this is the smarter way to adapt our old machines to produce some extra stuff for us. And we can basically get some production for free. Which I think is smart, but you may disagree. In the future, when we have unlocked loads of more stuff and we don't have any limitations of how much we can use, how much we can build, how large we can build, and especially what type of conveyor belt we're limited by, well, then I can show you how to basically build like optimal dream factories that are just producing things at ludicrous rates at perfect efficiency. But when we're playing survival, actually playing at the level I am showing to you, a lot of other tutorials are like showing you how to build basic iron stuff when you are like at level 8 basically. And that's really not what this series is about. This series is hand-in-hand walkthrough through the game, showing all the aspects at the time it's appropriate. So, well, that's the style anyways. But in any case, future tutorials, yes, we can do more other advanced stuff, but as you understood, we were actually limited here a little bit by the output speed of our belts, so we couldn't use one source. So I thought this was a good solution, and we didn't need to add a lot of new areas to do this. And remember, the fewer areas you have, the less your game will lag, which can be useful if you don't have a spaceship for a computer. So basically, here we have it. This thing is of course a splitter, which means that we can just connect up the output of our excessive stuff to there. So now I have the means to make rods up there too. Isn't that quite nice? Now, when we're going to use this overclocking unit, I know already that I actually in the future will need even more screws, because later on we're going to do a screw factory. So I'm going to make some calculations here, since we're already overclocking it. For extra 50 screws per minute we need 12.5. So we can just do an experiment here and just add 12.5, 260. Oh well, we can add 50 more screws per minute in this facility, so we can have an excess of screws we can use for later projects. Good. We can't add another one at 100%, but we can add one at a lower percentage, so you can see we're slightly over here. So this is the maximum output of the belt. If we make a screw factory that uses exactly 10 per minute, so at 80% we get 40, so we can have 90 extra screws. Well, I think that's a good deal. 90 extra screws we can have. And then we can have this at, well, the maximum output of 270. Come on now, 270. Enter, thank you very much. Good. Right, so then we have the iron required. We can now start making the factory. So additionally to what we have mentioned we should have already, we should basically have another little screw factory. So I write it up here, plus 50. And this is a 80%, so plus 40 there. Very nice. Alright, I've set up this little thing here. I basically made a design I thought was pretty cool. Since we're having a just little add-on factory on top of here, I used these gate holes to kind of get an open type of design. And they are of course now producing an output of totally 60 iron rods per minute. And I also totally realized that, yeah, it can actually be Mark 1 the entire way here, because the input is also 60. I should have thought of that, but anyways, whatever. Doesn't make much of a difference, but we have solved the iron rod issue completely officially. Alright, so we need to output the iron, and I have started to work on a little solution here. So basically, as said, we're gonna overproduce some screws for later projects, so we have a production rate of 270 per minute, which is quite nice. So we of course need to just connect it up to power. And when we've done that, you can see I have conveyor Mark III belts, because that is the necessary required speed we need to input into this facility. And this is basically 8 smelters. And 2 episodes ago, we made this 240 smelting facility. And this is exactly the thing I've spawned in. And if you want to have a closer look on that, well, please check the earlier video 2 videos ago, basically. So we go in here, and what I did was overclocked 2 machines, because it's originally designed for 240. But these 2 machines combined produce 90 instead of 60, and that's of course 40, 50, 60, 70, yeah. And now we should have an output that matches that. So I connected it up all the way. We should just be able to connect this up to power, and we should start producing the iron we require for this project. And there we go. Iron is being produced. Iron rods are being produced too. And we should now have 270 ingots per minute in a very tiny moment. Quite splendid. This must be like the worst power grid ever with our temporary production. You can see it sometimes dips down, and then our these have to jump in. You can see when it crosses the line, these jump in. It's, oh god damn it. I'm longing to upgrade to some fuel generators, because when we do that, the problems will go away. It's pretty crazy. Like, I'm doing the smaller variant of the factory here. And now we are basically putting down the amount of screws we can produce, which is cast screws. This particular unit is set to 80% because that's what we calculated. The rest of them should be cast screws. And it's like 11 machines in a row. Oh my god, that's so much. And now we're doing the like small version of the factory. So I hope you kind of understand why we actually cut down on the size a little bit here, just using this alternate recipe. Like early in game, you can unlock the basic alternate recipes. Well, it might be a little bit too late by now, but seriously, unlocking the cast screws. You will want that. You will want that. It's 50 times 10, and it's gonna be plus, is it 40 there? So 540 screws. We actually need only 450 of them. So we'll have some spare ones. In any case, there we go. As soon as they're connected to power, well, as soon as they are, we are going to produce screws to that number. So of course we can't combine the output into a single output. That would be quite impossible. We have to divide the output dependent on where it goes. Alright, and when building, remember to line up and get the straight 90-degree angles. It's 1, 2. And if you don't know that, you should probably check out some of the earlier tutorials. In any case, like the really early one. In any case, we need to check a little bit here. Now you can see I added some stuff, and I'm going to explain it momentarily. So instead of having 3 reinforced iron plates manufacturers, I'm gonna use my alternate bolted iron plate recipe. It's a pretty normal one, by the way, so it's not exotic. We still need 90 iron plates, and we need a little bit more screws. We would otherwise need 180, I think it was. But in any case, this means we need 250 screws per minute. That's 1, 2, so 2, that's 100, 150, 200, 250. So I added this little small concrete block to know that the other ones are going elsewhere, but we have now combined up 250 screws per minute here. Each their output is 50 screws per minute, so a Mark 1 belt suffices, and we combine it up to a Mark 3. Beautiful, so we have that, and we have connected that up. So what we basically need to do now is to also connect up some power to this one. So now we have power. In any case, that means we're producing, all of them are starting in unison. Isn't that quite beautiful? And these should now be outputting screws that goes into there. Very nice. So as we go on here, you can see that the screws output is being combined into this little line that will go into this machine, which will require exactly 250 screws per minute into and 90 iron plates per minute in order to make 15 reinforced iron plates per minute. So here we can see the screws started to come here. Very nice indeed. It's filling up pretty quickly, of course. So now we need the iron plates, and I have extended the output of the screws because remember, these should cover all our production except the rods, which is over there. And they are into here. There's just a manifold setup going into the outputs of each of them. So this is iron plates, iron plates, iron plates, and this one, the first one here, is actually an iron plate that's overclocked to 50%. Now, I was just lazy and didn't want to expand the factory more sideways, so I didn't want to move anything. But actually, you could just have this machine, add another one, and have that at 50% instead of just wasting one of the power shards. But I haven't been using them all game, so I'm not feeling like wasting. So anyways, what we basically need to do here is I've set up this conveyor line here. So we're just going to add some mergers here in order to have an output and make them go into the machine here. Here I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are going to be making modular frames, of course. And remember, as with any manifold setup, it takes some time for it to actually be efficient, because basically these machines need to fill up first. So yeah, before the iron starts to come reliably over here. But we're making some plates, and we need to set up an input connection to these ones. And we should of course set up them to produce modular frames. So there we go. One. Here is my little tip, by the way, on how to align conveyor lifts. So we're selecting the height. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Then we spawn a splitter just beside the input, right? So 1, 2, 3. Just to know where it goes. And then we take this and connect it into this one. Then we can remove this one and we can start adding. So what do we want here is we want splitters, right? So we'll just add the splitters in front of each of the connections, and the last one here and there. And then we can use the conveyor lifts. And if you just have your sound on, you can hear the little tick. And little tick means it will connect. Beautiful, like that. And there we go. Now these are connected. So this is perfectly aligned. We can now remove this part. And of course, this little alignment splitter. I think that's pretty useful, at least. And the reason to do this, of course, that, well, the conveyor lifts shouldn't interfere with the belts on the ground, which we just did a simple manifold connection to get the rods in the right place. So basically, there is an input here, and this one is supposed to go there. And remember to always check your outputs, 15 per minute. Having more than Mark 1 doesn't really make sense. And there we go. Connected and fine. This should now be a nice little setup here that works, and well, it's a manifold setup, but it should eventually give it to all the machines. And of course, if you haven't set up power, do that. I didn't show each and every detail just because this making heavy modular frames just have an insane amount of parts. This is not the easiest thing to craft in a game, if you have noticed maybe. Oh my god, just look at this. Whew, that's so much. So basically what we have to do now is we will need to combine the modular frames, combine that with some more screws, so to be specific 200 screws per minute, which is 4 of the machines, and drag here some encased industrial beams and steel pipes, and also update the output input data out there, so we know how much we're drawing at that particular moment. All right, so I have been leading some stuff here to the production. And as you probably know, we already had an output of the steel pipes, as well as the steel pipes. We had a line for that already connected up. So I added a new sign that gives the output of these units. So 60 steel pipes per minute, which is our input as well. So we're not accumulating more basically. But we added a new line, and we're using the existing steel pipe line because the factory that makes motors does only use 30 per minute. So we didn't even need to upgrade the belt. We could just add a splitter, add a belt that goes here, and then just add these encased industrial beams on top of it. Continue, of course, adding a continuation of this steel pipe line. So we basically have everything that goes to over here in this little in-factory bus we have here, which is of course the ceiling mount for the conveyor belt, which is very handy and nice to use. And we're just going to drag down these materials to input in the factory. So that's what we did. There we go, making the output of the modular frames. So there they are. Now we should have 10 per minute. I plopped down a manufacturer right here. I think that will be a decent place to have it. We go in here and select heavy modular frames. So 200 screws per minute. That means 4 machines indeed. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are going to be connected up via a little merger setup and inputted into one of the ports. And there we go. So Mark 1 from each output and going to a Mark 3. And it should be nice and balanced. Now the modular frames are going into here, which means we only basically need to drag these components over here into the other ports, and we're good to go. And there we go. We have them there, just a little bit more. And there we go. Finally they're connected up. And as you probably know, I really like to build my factories on the ground level. And this makes it so that they are less walkable. However, there is a little fix you can do to make them walkable. That's very, very easy. And that's actually to just add some of these, some walkways, using the connection points on top of the factory so you can kind of easily walk around. And I find this is kind of helpful because I feel that I really like to build my factories on the ground level. Here we are, we'll need some power though. And there we have it. We are officially producing heavy modular frames, I mean. Yes, it's running. The manufacturer is doing advanced manufacturing duties. That doesn't look like a nuke at all. No, ignore that. So we'll just go in here and you can see, yep, there we have it. We have an industrial modular frame. And we should of course check the production to see that everything is running at good efficiency. Now we do have some extra potential screw output here, and that's cool and all, but that might mess with the numbers a tiny little bit. But in any case, that's going to be used later on anyways, and yeah, not an easy thing to do. Like look at this facility. We'll just have to take out a lookout tower This is so large. Oh my god, I want jetpacks like now. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. And now we even didn't, like, we already had the encased industrial beams given. And we had the steel pipes given. And we still need this kind of setup to make one part efficiently. It's just insane. Yeah, I think this is one of the most complex little builds we have done so far. I hope you have been able to follow with us in this little tutorial. And I'm already a little bit tired from building this. I am not going to decorate this facility now. We're gonna save that for the making aesthetic, cool looking decorative factories episode instead. Sometimes Satisfactory's connection points are really weird. You can see this apparently isn't connected to this merger. So always when building your factories, make sure that everything is working. Just let it run for a while and then check back. Here you can see what's happening here. It's not getting in there. So we obviously have some sort of mess up here. And here we can see it's once again that the merger's output is simply in the wrong direction. So it doesn't work. So we'll just add a new merger here. And we add it on the line so it is absolutely sure that it's the right direction. And now you can see, yep, they're going in there. So check the stats on all the machines, make sure that their input is actually correct, because it's easy to make a small mistake like that, but detrimental to your productions. Well, the factory has been running. We added some walkways here and there so we can have some easy access above. Well, I will admit it doesn't look the most perfect, but we can get around pretty easily, and the effectiveness of the facility is closing in on 100%. Takes a little bit of time, especially for this 5 assemblers here, but really we did the calculations before. It should be completely balanced and 100% efficient. So there we have it. We are making heavy modular frames now. With that, I guess we're gonna say thanks a lot for watching, and I'm gonna be seeing you in the future videos. Hope you can get your heavy modular frame factory working. We made a couple of them. We want to reach 100 so that we can unlock some fuel. Next video, please do give me some comments about what you want to see next. I'm thinking we're gonna do some decorations, or we're going to make some computers, or we're going to get into fuel generation. In any case, this was a project. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, and huge thanks to the commissioned officers in the army of Gmodism who are supporting the channel over at Patreon. See you next time. This is your host, Gmodism, and we're signing out. Bye bye.